What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are back with another Q&A, this one being the Q&A for February 2021. As I said in the last one, I'm going to try and keep these a little bit shorter moving forward, as they do always tend to end up about 20 minutes long, which is not the goal. I do tend to ramble on a fair bit, and so I'm only going to be answering about 6 or 7 questions in today's episode. Now, if you guys do want to ask me some questions, then there is a Discord link down in the description. That's where I take these questions from, so be sure to join the Discord if you do want to ask any questions, and there is a specific channel for the Q&A, which I open up every month for you guys to ask some questions. But anyway, with that out of the way, let's get stuck into these questions for February. So the first question we have comes from Jay Wint, who says, what are your expectations for the Ubisoft open world game, and what time period and characters do you want to play as? So for the expectations, honestly, I'm expecting it to be pretty similar to The Division, as the team who is making it, which is Massive Studios, they made The Division 1 and 2. So I'm expecting it to be, somewhat like that. I think there will obviously be a lot of changes. It's not going to be like a direct copy of the game or anything like that, but I think that same sort of style is probably how it's going to end up. As for what time period and what characters, that's tough. I think honestly a prequel era game would be pretty cool, like a Coruscant style map where, I don't know, whether it is bounty hunters or like whatever the case may be. I think just Coruscant and the sort of like underworld vibes that is seen, a little bit throughout the Clone Wars and stuff like that. I think that would be pretty cool. Even just something like 1313, which obviously is the cancelled Star Wars game. Something along the lines of that would probably be, my priority if I get to choose it, I guess. But honestly, so long as it's Star Wars, I really do not care what era it is set in. I think also like a High Republic type of game would be pretty cool. Whether they're going to actually go ahead and do that, obviously the High Republic's only just sort of starting out, but I guess by then it'll be nearly 3 years old, so it's hard to tell. But yeah, I'd probably say either like the Coruscant type setting or possibly a High Republic setting as well would be pretty cool. The next question comes from a man, Alice, who says, if there is a Battlefront 3, should it be completely different to Battlefront 2 or quite similar? That is a very tough question. I think in certain areas it needs to be similar. I think just like the sort of large scale sandbox type of game that Battlefront is, I think it needs to still say that. I think if they turned it into, say, like a smaller shooter like Call of Duty, for example, I don't feel like that would feel like Battlefront. So I think the general gist of the game should stay as, how Battlefront 2 was, but I think there is definitely a lot of stuff that needs to change. I think a lot of stuff like crossplay and like bigger maps and bigger, more players, stuff like that. I think all of that really needs to change. I think some better probably saber combat and stuff like that is also needed. Maybe a better progression system, although Battlefront 2 doesn't have the worst progression system by any means. But yeah, I think it needs a lot of changes, but I think overall the general idea of the game should be pretty similar. Just something like Battlefront 2 and even just Battlefield, like that sort of sandbox, large scale, immersive type of multiplayer game is definitely what it needs to be. The next question comes from SammyBoiii, who says, what is a game that disappointed you, and what is the game that surpassed your expectations? The game that disappointed me is definitely Battlefield 5. Overall, I actually still really enjoy the game. It's not a bad game by any means, but I think just the potential that it had, and just comparing it to the old Battlefield games, it really was a bit of a letdown. The fact that there's no D-Day beach landing sort of maps and stuff like that, there's a lot of like iconic stuff missing from Battlefield 5. I think that's like my main issue with it. The gunplay and all that is really good. It is a little bit like buggy, but to be honest, most games are buggy. Let's be honest, like every single game that I've played has had bugs, so I don't think that's that big of an issue. But yeah, for me, it's mostly like the setting, like not making the most of that World War II setting. That's probably the main issue for me. And then also just like a lot of small stuff, like the tanks are a little bit OP, and there's like the prone MMG users and a bunch of stuff like that. I think that's a game that had so much potential, and it unfortunately just never really reached it. As for a game that exceeded my expectations, I might honestly say Fallen Order. I did have a lot of hype going into the game, and I thought it was going to be, a fun Star Wars game, but it ended up being like a genuine AAA, like almost a blockbuster type of game, which I honestly didn't expect. For me, that game is maybe not quite on the same level, but it's like comparable with games like, say, God of War and The Last of Us and stuff. It's not quite there, but it is at least in that realm of, being a really, really solid game, and I truly just didn't expect that. I thought it would be a sort of rough launch after both, the Star Wars games from EA with Battlefront 2015 and then 2017. They'd been, a little bit bumpy at the start, and I kind of assumed that would be the same thing for Fallen Order, but no, it came out and it absolutely blew my expectations out of the water. The next question comes from Falador, who says, when did you start thinking / considering starting a YouTube channel and why? To be honest, ever since I started like watching gaming on YouTube, which was probably when I was around 12 years old, so this is like 12 or 13 years ago. But when I genuinely considered doing it, it was probably like only a few months before I actually started, which was I think like early 2018, so probably like late 2017 I would say I started thinking about it. I had just been uploading random gameplay, not even just to try and grow or anything, but mostly just like I'd get a good clip in Battlefront, for example, and rather than deleting the clip, I would just upload it to YouTube so that I can watch it later and like share it with mates or whatever. And then I kind of just got like addicted to going for those, you know, the cool clips and uploading them. Not really trying to grow. I had no intention of growing, but then it kind of just sort of grew on me, and eventually I thought, hey, why don't I actually start a channel and see how it goes? As for why, that's, yeah, pretty much just answer that, I guess. It was just a matter of like, I thought it was fun and wanted to see, you know, if it would end up going anywhere. And yeah, I'm very glad that I did start the channel. The next question comes from my boy Charm, who says, what's your biggest complaint about being a YouTuber? Now, this isn't a no-brainer for me. It is dealing with other people on the platform who are clickbaiters or who use, you know, scummy sort of tactics to make their channel more successful than yours. It's not a competition or anything. Like, I personally don't really care this, you know, how my channel is going compared to anyone else's, but it does sort of grind at your gears when there are people out there who are putting like a third of the amount of effort into their videos as you are, and their videos are getting like 10 times the amount of views. It's so frustrating to have to deal with that, knowing that if all those people watched your videos, like, they would obviously enjoy that a lot more than the dribble that some people put out there. So that's definitely the biggest thing for me. Just, you know, there's a lot of great YouTubers. It's not like it's everyone else. There's a lot of great people in this community who make really, really good content. And so it's not even just me. It's like there's a lot of channels that I think deserve way more subs, and they just unfortunately can't compete with those top guys because a lot of them just fall into that clickbaiting sort of strategy where it's just, yeah, put out whatever bullshit video you want, and if it has a catchy thumbnail and title, even if it's not true, then it's going to get views, and that's all they care about, unfortunately. Like I said, it's not really like a competition or anything, but I've always sort of compared it to like if you're working, you know, you work in an office and you're the best worker in that office, but then there's 3 guys who are just like sucking up to the boss, and they go buy him coffees and all, you know, just do whatever he wants, and then they get a promotion and you're just stuck there even though you're the best worker in the office. So that's kind of the frustrating thing. And again, it's not just about me. There are many other best people in the office, quote unquote, but yeah, it's just very frustrating to have to sort of deal with that. The next question comes from my man Jazza, who says, what's your single favorite Rebels and Clone Wars episodes? That is a very tough question. Now, I haven't finished Rebels. I'm only up to the end of season 2, so technically season 3. So I can only judge of what I've seen, and without saying any spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it, the final, you know, episode, I guess there's 2 episodes for season 2, are definitely my favorite so far, and I think they are probably at that point definitely the best episodes. As for the Clone Wars, again, it's probably the finale arc, like the last 4 episodes that we got of season 7. I think that's definitely the best Clone Wars we've got, but there's a lot of arcs in that show that are really, really good. The Umbara arc is really good. The Mortis arc was really good. There's quite a lot, but I think the finale for season 7 was definitely the best. Now, last but not least, we have a question from Sam, who says, which Star Wars character would you like to get a spin-off who does not currently already have one announced? Damn, that's tough. I would probably say Thrawn, but then he, I guess, is going to show up in Ahsoka, so I don't know if you can count that. If I'm going to be able to count that, then I would say Thrawn probably, but if I'm not allowed to count Thrawn, then I think, and I was talking about this in the Discord the other day, I think I would actually love to see a Luke Skywalker show, with Sebastian Stan as the actor for him, just sort of like in that period between, even like around the Battlefront 2 time, where it's like Return of the Jedi is done and he's sort of like moved on to setting up the Jedi Academy, and he's like looking around the galaxy for, you know, Jedi artifacts and stuff like that. I think a show in that setting would be pretty cool. Now, I don't think we need that, like it's not something that I'm like, I have to know what happens, because we kind of know what happens already, but I think that's a lot of like almost like filler content that I would definitely love to see. I think the more Luke we have, and especially with such a good actor like Sebastian Stan, who just looks so much like Luke Skywalker, I think that would definitely be the one that I would have to choose. But if Thrawn doesn't count, then I think I would prefer Thrawn, because I think he really, really deserves his own show as well. So those are going to do it for the questions for the Q&A for February. Like I said, guys, I'm going to try and keep them a little bit shorter. I wish I could answer every single question, but they just go for too damn long. So I will be back early next month. And like I said, if you do want to ask some questions, then jump in the Discord and you'll see, I'm not sure if it'll be there when you join, but there will be a Q&A channel that opens up sort of like a few weeks before I go to record these. And yeah, feel free to ask any questions that you want in there, and I'll try and get to as many as I can. But that is going to do it for this one, boys and girls. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.